He will be seeking the death penalty. He will continue to be held without bail. It's emerged Lord Mandelson was appointed ambassador to the US before he was fully security vetted. The Foreign Secretary revealed that due diligence checks were carried out, but Mr Mandelson only underwent in-depth vetting after being announced in the job. Yvette Cooper made the omission ahead of an emergency debate on the Prime Minister's handling of the affair in the Commons earlier, where the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, accused the Prime Minister of ducking the debate. She urged Sir Keir Starmer to apologise to Jeffrey Epstein's victims and challenged him to provide clarity over what he knew and when. And the actor and director Robert Redford has died at the age of 89. Redford was one of Hollywood's leading men in the 1970s, starring in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting, for which he won an Academy Award. He acted alongside his good friend Paul Newman in both films. Those are your latest headlines. Now, it's back to Alex.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to Late Edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, let's get straight into Wednesday's front pages. The Metro, Don in, none out. Brilliant headline there. The Express, $4 million to pay tax on state pension in 2 years. The Guardian, Trump fans the flames of division, says Sadiq Khan. The Mail, human rights fanatic PM sunk by human rights. There we have it. The Telegraph, migrant flight grounded by court. The Eye, Starmer to press Trump on Israel as UN warns of Gaza genocide. The Daily Star, the Lion of Hollywood. Mirror, the ego has landed. And The Times, technology deal worth billions is boost for the UK. And finally, The Sun, Air Farce 1. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel, shall we? Former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett, journalist and broadcaster Christo. We can't get us.
The idea of you being a journalist, that's terrible, Christo. I wouldn't have that.
What was funnier, me being gender neutral or me being a journalist? I don't know which you found funnier.
Well, you're wearing a very gender neutral looking tie tonight. Some sort of trans flag.
It's trans flag.
On the left there, wouldn't you? I have to also introduce Paul Cox here, GBNews comedian, which I'm currently filling the role of, apparently, and contributor Paul Cox. Off to a cracking start, hey? Should we talk about The Guardian, shall we? Because Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, just cannot stop, can he? He's been on I think he's written more tweets and been in more papers than anyone else. He's, of course, saying Trump is fanning the flames of division tonight. Funny from a bloke who's just been putting out statements about how he found a bunch of people waving flags, divisive and racist, on the weekend. But there we go, Paul.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Well, Sadiq Khan called 1 million people, approximately, or somewhere between 110,000 and 1 million people, far right at the weekend, on the basis they happened to be in London at that point. So,
do you think he meant white? Because he doesn't like that either, does he? So maybe that was why.
I can't see colour, so I don't know what he means. But yeah, I think it's fantastic that Donald Trump's here. Naturally, of course I do. The great man himself. He looks very comfortable when he's in the UK. He always looks like he enjoys being here. He kind of wanders around like he owns the place slightly. He's got one of the best golf courses in the world in Thornbury, and you know he's landed looking incredibly glamorous with his beautiful wife. He's not going to care what Sadiq Khan thinks. Yeah, he's not going to care what things are being projected onto the walls.
You say that, Paul. You say he doesn't care, but last time they had this massive spat. I don't know if you remember it. And after when he left the UK, he went absolutely after.
I'd like to take you back. Actually, he probably is losing sleep over Sadiq Khan because he really has. He does. I mean, God bless him. Don't come for me, Trumpster. Daddy, as we like to call him here. But, he is quite thin-skinned, so I'd imagine, quite honestly, he probably is quite affected.
Yeah, Matthew, just because this is not what I mean. Looking across these front pages, I want to come back to The Guardian, of course, but looking across these front pages, what Keir Starmer would have hoped for today is they all read President Donald Trump's in town for a state visit. And that is not the case. There's a handful of papers talking about Trump as the lead story, but only really a few out of all of them. And of course, one of those talking about Trump is Sadiq Khan, one of his, of course, best friends, as one of his mates, as Keir Starmer put it, is really going to upset the president when he's trying to get a good deal out of him.
Yeah, I think it's somewhat of a distraction. I think, you've got to think about Sadiq and what London is like. He's playing to his sort of MO, the idea that, Donald Trump doesn't poll well in this country, probably polls the worst in London, as it being a fairly liberal city.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson sort of did similar. I mean, he used to lean into the fact that, he used to like the idea of an amnesty for asylum seekers or people that were here illegally, because he knew that would play well and Tories could therefore get elected in London. Keeps him on the front pages. And obviously this is at a time where Keir's on sort of fragile ground at the moment. It appears to be,
I think that's an understatement.
Sadiq may fancy a run back in Parliament, or there are certain people in Labour that think he might actually try and run for another term. This sort of keeps his core. I thought Christo would like that one. Keeps his core vote happy, obviously.
Yeah, Christo. What do you make of it?
Not a Premier League footballer, was it, Christo?
Oh, good God.
He's looking at
Very good.
That would not be happening, I'm telling you now. But in this instance, it certainly is, because I find Sadiq Khan to be a repellent little runt. And I did say runt, just in case there was any confusion.
You know what he thinks he is, actually.
No, I'm sorry, but this is so typical of that horrid little man, that he would decide to try and fan the flames of division himself. Now, he can't be magnanimous, because the only person that Sadiq Khan cares about is Sadiq Khan, and he knows, as you said, that this will play well with the minorities in London who are more likely to vote for him. And I think, actually, as repellent as Sadiq Khan is, there's actually a really serious point here. We have just seen the assassination of someone on the right of politics who was constantly called far-right, and who was accused of being an autocrat, which is actually what Sadiq Khan says here, that what Donald Trump does is straight out of the autocrat's playbook. Heaven forbid something actually happens to Donald Trump from a maniac like happened to Charlie Kirk. Well, I don't think that Sadiq Khan would be so keen on self-promotion in that. So it's just awful that days after Charlie Kirk was murdered, this is the kind of rhetoric we get from such a man.
You just can't. I want to throw back to that clip of Trump talking about Khan, I believe, in front of Keir Starmer. Let's have a little look.
Not a fan of your mayor. Why not? I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's a friend of mine. I'm not sure. No, I think he's done a terrible job, but I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Donald Trump goes, I don't care, he's a loser, he's a terrible person, nasty person. And that's it. Donald Trump doesn't care what Keir Starmer thinks about him. I mean, Donald Trump's made his mind up. He does not like this man. And, of course, it's not going to do any justice to the Prime Minister, Paul, that Sadiq Khan is on a front page. And I'm sure Donald Trump, being the news hog that he is, will want to see what the British press are writing about him.
He will do. I don't think Sadiq Khan is playing the game for Labour. He's playing the game for the position of mayor, for himself, Sadiq Khan. Because there is something very good is going to come of this week, and it's going to look very good for Keir Starmer, and that is this deal between the US and the UK. It's going to be unprecedented. It's likely to be a very good deal. If it's signed off under Keir Starmer's leadership, if we can see it that long, it's going to be an incredible win for him. And why wouldn't he claim it? You would expect, and I imagine in the background, people pulling strings, people Matthew knows, are speaking to Donald Trump's team and saying, look, there's things we could do for you. Could you take it easy on Keir this week? Let's not create any big scenes, because Keir Starmer will see this as an incredible positive, potentially for his premiership.
Yeah, let's bring up the front page of the Mirror here, because they're leading on this. The ego has landed, and in this text here it says Donald Trump faced a storm of furious protest as he landed in Britain for his second state visit. We were watching it live. I didn't see anything like that, just to be clear. But here it says one protester at Windsor Castle has said this.
We don't want him here.
Thank you. Yeah, he's a dangerous man. That's the words they use. And you'd be forgiven for people feeling that way when you see the front page of The Guardian where we're talking, where he's calling him an autocrat. We've seen David Lammy and others in the past have this abysmal rhetoric about the man who's now leading the free world. Then you start to go back to what you were saying, Krista, about that dangerous rhetoric. And then you've got, ironically, Sadiq Khan saying there's division.
Yeah,
how could we have someone who divides us all go and protest?
Hypocrisy, because they are the first to call it out. And he couldn't... The thing is, what was more important to Sadiq Khan here was the front page and getting those headlines. I think it would have been perfectly reasonable had he said, I don't believe that Keir Starmer should be bullied by Donald Trump. I don't believe that it's helpful when, for Keir Starmer to be cozying up to someone who politically he's not aligned with. That would have been an absolute fair criticism. But it wouldn't have got Sadiq Khan the front page, and that's all he cared about. And also, you're right, a patriot, if we're talking about patriots when it came to that march that Khan was so quick to criticise, a patriot would be more concerned with us getting a good deal. I want Keir Starmer to do well with the deal.
So do I.
Who doesn't? Whereas Sadiq Khan cares more about himself than actually what's good for Britain. And I think that's a really important point, that he's just an awful, repellent, vile little man. He's probably going to tax my words right now.
I'm not going to get everything, but it's an incredibly serious point about putting the target on someone, as we now demonstrably know they do, when they use this language of autocrat, fascist, etc. It unfortunately now has been borne out, and I know that was in the US. It does, but where the US go, we follow, and I can see something very nasty happening. Things nasty have happened here already, but if we keep demonising people, they will become demons in sick people's minds.
And let's not forget, someone actually did try and shoot Donald Trump just a few months ago. And so it's unbelievable to me.
Matthew, just keeping on this theme for just a little bit longer, because this is an interesting situation the Prime Minister and President Trump are in, because both are embroiled in some form of Epstein scandal. Trump obviously more directly, but now Keir Starmer taking the hit for Peter Mandelson. There's going to be a press conference, I suspect, at some point, or someone's going to be asking Donald Trump questions or Keir Starmer questions. It's an easy line of attack for any journalist. 2 in 1.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I'd heard there is not going to be a press conference. There's not going to be any media.
We said that, but we just saw Trump not that long ago live giving quotes to the press, which
possibly on the
so this is what I mean. I know there's no
else.
planned press conference, but you catch him off guard, and then all of a sudden he'll go into it.
He will. I mean, for him, he's probably just not wading into anything himself. He's got his own concerns. I will add on the points that have been made, though. I think, yes, we have to be careful with our language, and, freedom of speech is one thing, but obviously it comes with repercussions in certain cases. But I do think there is a place, maybe of certain language, to call out things that you think are wrong.
Yes,
I think
totally agree.
The fact that Donald Trump is sort of normalising the military on the streets in Democrat cities, is leaning into actually what is starting to look a little bit like cancel culture this week, and the rhetoric that he is coming out with. Maybe Sadiq Khan could have chose his words better, but I do think Donald Trump is a dangerous man. I think what he's doing is quite dangerous, and I worry, like lots of people across the waters in Democratic circles, that this is all a normalisation because he doesn't want to leave office in 3 years. And what do we do in that situation when he's already shown in certain cases with Ukraine he's not a reliable ally anymore? What do we do about that?
Yeah, I just feel like we are in such a dire situation in this country, particularly economically. We are really, really, really struggling. And you think, for goodness sake, the Prime Minister's on the ropes. He's clinging by the threads onto his premiership. Our economy is about to buckle into stagflation.
And Sadiq Khan's there with the scissors on the thread.
This is it, and this is what I mean. If you're really part of if you want to play politics, now is of course the perfect time. But if you want to be someone who cares about trying to secure a great deal, maybe just wait till he's left. And that's all. And I totally understand what you're saying. I totally agree with freedom of speech. But I think when you're a national politician, you've got to find the time and place and put the country ahead of your party politics. And I think Sadiq Khan is not putting the country ahead of his party politics. That's all my criticism is of what he's saying. Should we move on to something? Should we move on to something a bit different, shall we? What do we fancy about the I-paper here? Starmer to press Trump on Israel as UN warns of Gaza genocide. That's the front page of the I. Now, again, many people are going to be wondering, is this the time to be pushing for our sort of angle on a foreign war when we need so much else for Trump's attention. We need his attention on our economic situation. We need it on tariffs. And the Prime Minister, Paul, is potentially going to be going off on genocide in Gaza.
He is, and as unfortunate as the situation in Gaza and Israel is, I have no idea really what Keir Starmer stands for when it comes to a lot of things.
Anything?
I particularly don't fully understand his sort of duplicitous thoughts when it comes to Israel and Gaza. He seems to, he's like a weather vane, isn't he? He kind of goes wherever the political winds are going. I don't want to get too stuck into the detail about Israel and Gaza. You know, the UN today have come out and said everything's creeping towards a genocide, and if that is the case, and there's some very, very serious and unfortunate things that are going on in Gaza right now, but as a result of Hamas.
Yeah, Christo, very briefly, because someone correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, actually you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it was our own Parliament that came out in the last week or so, one of our off-street groups of Parliament that said that there was no genocide happening in Gaza. Is that right?
It was David Lammy's final act as Foreign Secretary, actually. He wrote a letter to say it isn't, as far as they're concerned, I think on this... I appreciate, domestically is where Keir has been struggling. Internationally, some may say he's done all right, some others may disagree. I think he's done OK, actually, especially with the Trump relationship, which has surprised me. But they've handled him quite well. On this, the issue I've got is I think he's got to raise it with Trump, because for me, the only person that can do something about this is Donald Trump.
Well, okay.
He is the most powerful man in the world. He could lift a phone, I believe, and end this almost tomorrow. Israel need the US, and they've shown that with the strikes on Iran and elsewhere. And my frustration with Donald Trump is he acts like an observer and goes, God, it's all awful, isn't it? As if he has no power whatsoever.
Matthew, and I totally appreciate that, but I don't think he does. I don't think the Prime Minister has any power. But look, and we're going to touch on this more.
No, he does. Trump does.
Yeah, Trump does. Trump certainly does. Well, coming up in just a moment.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order.
Air Farce 1. That is what the press are calling it. And I know I'm not talking about Donald Trump arriving. I'm talking about the lack of migrants that aren't leaving. More disaster for Keir Starmer's migrant plan. This is Patrick Christys tonight, late edition with me, Alex Armstrong. See you shortly.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What I want to talk about now, though, is a Christian street preacher who was shut down by London's Transport Police outside King's Cross Station. Now, she has exclusively spoken to GB News, claiming that Christians are being heavily persecuted in this country and that police are not doing this to other religious speakers. Shocking, indeed, if true. Well, are we living in this two-tier approach by the authorities that we hear so much about? I'm delighted to say I am joined now in the studio by that street preacher herself, Monique Bailey.
It is true that the police did tell us that you need a permit, so that is truth, but it's the way it was handled. She was it was just astonishing. I just couldn't believe how a police person could come against us like that. Like, we were abiding by the rules. And by the way, I didn't actually put the full clip on just to, in a way, save her, because it actually got worse.
OK.
Yeah.
Monique, can I just quickly ask, if you take a step back and look at Britain, as a Christian, you see the demonstrations that we've had since October 7th, some would say pro-Hamas, anti-Israel demonstrations, pretty overt displays of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
We've had the Lucy Connolly case. We've had, I would argue, clear evidence of a two-tier approach within our judicial legal system. Do you think that we are actually now entering a society where some groups, some religions are treated much more harshly than others? Do you think, for example, if you had been a Muslim preacher in King's Cross Station, the reaction would have been the same?
Yeah, of course, every religion gets something thrown at them, but I do think, of course, Christianity is the most persecuted, and I do think we will see it more.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, late edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, let's start with the front page of the Telegraph because Keir Starmer has been humiliated again. I don't know how many times. I've lost track of how much humiliation there is for this government at the moment because, his groundbreaking deal that he heralded with pound shop Napoleon Emmanuel Macron hasn't even got started, despite the fact it was meant to start on Monday, and a big fat 0 migrants have left our country. In fact, we've had one president arrive and 0 illegal migrants leave. Paul, it's the High Court, of all people, grounding these flights. Who would have guessed it?
On the basis of human rights, of course.
Yeah.
Ironically, one of the deportees is somebody who was arrested for a crime in France, escaped to the UK, was convicted of the crime in France in his absence, and we are unable to send him back, even though France want him back because he's a convicted criminal.
Yeah.
Right? So we find ourselves in a point where even the ones that France want to take back because they committed crimes in France, we can't even send those ones back. So it's absolutely ridiculous at the moment. Look, this was doomed to fail. Lots of people would have said from the start this was doomed to failure. This one-in, one-out business was never going to work. I don't see how they get through the sludge, which is the human rights barristers and solicitors. The sludge.
It's a great word. I love that word.
They
sludge.
are. It's just absolute sludge, isn't it? I mean, you just got to ban. You're going to have to break laws in order to send these people back.
Yeah, you have to rewrite the laws. The funny thing, Chris, though, is that the migrants claiming he'd be destitute if he went to that third world country we all know, France.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have you been to France?
Well,
no, in fairness, I actually quite like France. I'd like to send some migrants there. I was destitute, yes, I was, absolutely. I came back over here on a boat. Who could have possibly predicted this would have happened?
Yeah.
Who could have
done, Chris.
And he's been hoisted by his own petard here, hasn't he, Keir Starmer, because he's obsessed with human rights himself, which we clearly need fewer of, and now he has been done by human rights lawyers, right?
No mates.
I mean, how many human rights lawyers does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't think they can change a light bulb.
No, because the light bulb is a rapist and does not want to change. I just made that up. I don't know what that means, but it's true. But it's true because that would mean the point I'm making. It was just off the top of my head. I don't know what it meant.
Paul, he's gunning for your job, man. I think you're safe. I think you're all right.
I love working with Matthew and Chris. This is such a good game. Christo makes my job easy because he's.
We can't send back rapists. We can't send back. There was the story. Do you remember a few weeks ago? There was the story of the guy who had actually sexually assaulted someone or raped a woman, and then they said we can't send him back because he's gay. Well, it wasn't then. Was he?
Get a lapse, Chris.
I don't know what happened there. No, I know, but it's so absurd.
It's absurd. It is absurd, isn't it? Because this is the problem, isn't it, Matthew? That the Prime Minister made his whole. Nigel Farage famously on his immigration, his 2 hours of immigration special on GB News, held up the book Keir Starmer wrote to help his mates stop laws like this from happening, and now he's surprised. Well, I'm guessing he might be surprised that the flights have been taken off, or is he not? Perhaps.
I don't know. I think it did feel as if it would be too good to be true, and I think people had their concerns, the idea of it being 1 in, 1 out, and would it be 1 in, 1 out, or would it be several in and 1 out or none out and whatever else. The thing that frustrates me, people at home will be frustrated the fact that these flights aren't going. The thing, from a political communications point of view, is the optics are terrible. One, it's not happened. But I was really frustrated to see that yesterday, and today, the government had put journalists on the flight.
Yeah.
They'd provisionally booked them on to go, yes, we can report on this. And what all you've done is sent a journalist from The Sun to Calais.
Was that court-ordered?
Charles de Gaulle. Yeah, quite. And they're reporting going, well, this is hilarious. And I've just read the front page of the Telegraph. David Wood, who's a former Director General of the Immigration Enforcement, said he didn't think the Home Office would get any flights off the ground for weeks or even months. And to follow that, you never want to see these lines. Downing Street denied Sir Keir Starmer's deal was either a shambles or powerless. Well, that's just, you know, you pull your hair out with this sort of stuff.
Matthew, let me put this to you then. Let me put this to you because, you know, and it pains me to say this because you know how I feel about the Prime Minister and about how I feel about this government. But I think we have to ask ourselves: is Keir Starmer the best man really for this job? Because he understands the laws, he understands which ones need to be rewritten, and really, I'll give the government credit. At least they're trying to do something. The Tories took forever and they sat on their backside. They did nothing, and the one plan they did, of course, ended up with the same situation as they're facing today. And of course, then it all collapsed, and we've now had another few years of no deportations. At least perhaps the bones are there as where they weren't with the Tories.
I think, do you know what? He might be, if he wasn't Prime Minister. I remember, you know, working for Labour at the time of him being Shadow Brexit Secretary. And he'd read the legislation overnight. He'd have all the amendments ready. This was the idea of him being forensic and whatever else. I think as Prime Minister, he got too much to think about. I think if he was Home Secretary, maybe he would solve it. Yeah. Maybe if that was his sole thing, he'd be able to do it. But I think at the moment, you know, he doesn't seem to be, and that's the very frustration.
Just what we need to hear a year into the government, that actually the Prime Minister would have been better in a different job. But great, honestly.
Lawyer not a leader, isn't it? Lawyer not. I want to bring your attention to the front page of The Sun. I love this headline. This is just absolutely sensational, isn't it? Air Farce 1. Migrant plane off to France with none on board. We know there were journalists on board. I think Nigel Farage tweeted it was more journalists going to France than there were illegal migrants. Trump jets in, says 0 illegals got to US in a month, Christo.
Was this a scheduled flight to France, or did it just take off with the journalists aboard and no one else? I don't understand why.
It was scheduled. They chartered the flights with Air France.
But then why did it have to take off? If it wasn't taking any migrants, why did it have to go?
It's a commercial flight.
So it was a commercial flight. So it wasn't just an Air France flight that they chartered just from that. Because that would seem a bit pointless, wouldn't it? Like we just want the photo of what it would have looked like if there were some migrants on board.
That's a Photoshop. Yeah, that's a Photoshop.
It's just ridiculous. What is the opposite of the Midas touch, where everything you touch turns to...
I don't think I could say it live on telly.
But that's what's happening. It's just like everything they go near seems to just burst into flames. I don't understand. It's almost like...
Why don't they use a Eurostar, Christo?
Well, we could have had a photo of that. We could have had a carriage, couldn't there, that was empty.
What is it about using the plane? Because
a plane, you know they're leaving. The boat, you might think it might have to turn back round. At least the plane, you know they've gone and they're going quickly.
And they might jump out. They might jump off them.
True. That's true. Well, look, coming up in just a moment. Oh, maybe not.
Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out.
Well, shocking details have been revealed from the Charlie Kirk assassination case. This is Patrick Christys tonight, late edition with me, Alex Armstrong. See you soon.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been, by and large, a fine day today. We've seen 1 or 2 heavy showers, but more wet and windy weather coming in tonight, making for a soggy start tomorrow. It should brighten up in a few places, but some areas staying damp, particularly in Wales, where we have a weather warning. And here's the reason why. Low pressure is moving in, pushing away a little ridge of high pressure. The rain already creeping into parts of the west. Gets heavier and more persistent through the night. The brighter colours suggesting some pretty heavy downpours for Wales, Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. That rain filtering into eastern England by the end of the night. Northern Scotland stays largely dry. Clear skies here could allow temperatures to dip to single figures, but most places actually turning quite a bit milder through the night. So a humid feel in the morning and a pretty wet start. A lot of spray and surface water around on the roads in the morning. We have 2 Met Office yellow warnings in place over parts of Wales in the south and in the northwest, where that rain could cause some disruption through the day. Already clearing from Northern Ireland by 7 or 8 o'clock, so turning a bit drier and brighter here. That rain slowly creeping north across Scotland, but northern Scotland and other places should have by and large a dry start. But that's the exception to the otherwise pretty soggy rule, not just wet but also really quite windy. The heavy rain though should start to ease. I think the rain is likely to linger in parts of Wales and southwest England and edge into northern Scotland, but southern Scotland joins Northern Ireland in turning drier and brighter. North Wales, northern England also cheering up quite a bit through the day. It's going to feel quite humid and with a bit of brightness in northeast England, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees Celsius just about possible. But we'll see more rain coming in on Thursday. Now the rain band shifted a bit further north again. North Wales seeing some heavy bursts along with northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. Northern Scotland looking largely dry on Thursday and much of the south as well. And notice those temperatures ticking up, feeling quite warm in the south to end this week. Goodbye.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, of course, we are going to talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because the alleged assassin has now been charged in court and will be facing the death penalty. I've got Toria Brooke here joining me now, Republican commentator. Toria, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Of course, this is a story that's gripped not just the United States, but the entire world. And now, of course, we've heard that charge there. The assassin will be charged and potentially be facing the death penalty in Utah. Perhaps we can just play a quick clip for you before we get started of that press conference.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders.
Yes, Toria here. And we've got what we think are the transcripts here. And I just want to read a very quick line out for you and get your reaction to this, Toria. This is Robinson allegedly confessing to the roommate that was allegedly he's in a relationship with. And they asked, did you do it? And he says, yeah, I did. And they said, why? I had enough of his hatred talking about Charlie Kirk. Some hate can't be negotiated out. Toria, shocking stuff. Shocking stuff.
What's wild is these people are just so uneducated. I mean, Charlie actually would speak to those who are questioning to transition and talk to them about loving their bodies and choosing themselves over this other identity that they thought they had to become in order to be whole. So they really didn't understand Charlie's ideology, and he came from a place of love when talking to many of these people at these campuses. Beyond Tyler Robinson, they're going to investigate all the members of the Discord chat, which is where he allegedly communicated about his plans.
Yes, and of course President Trump saying he's going to, and I believe J.D. Vance as well, saying they're going to be looking at these radical, the issue they say of radical leftism in America. What will be the repercussions of that, Toria?
Well, I think now people are on high alert, right? So before it was just a thought, you know, these hate crimes, and now I think people are realizing they're going to be held accountable. We're seeing it across the United States. There are people who are getting fired from their places of employment, which many challenge that, this is violating the First Amendment. But these places of employment have the right to do this because when you sign on, you sign a code of conduct. So if you violate that code of conduct, then the companies have every right to get rid of you, especially if they think you're a threat. So I think we're going to see a reversal to everything we saw in the last 4 years where Republicans were getting fired from their jobs for their views. But the thing is, most of the Republicans weren't trying to incite violence. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and Toria, something we don't have here in the United Kingdom is the death penalty. How will this be viewed? Because I know the death penalty isn't available in every state for crimes like this. How will this be viewed across America in your broad opinion?
So it's legal in Utah, and I think this will set the precedent for what happens going forward. I know many people over the last few years have been calling for the death penalty for high case criminals and people in the government who the current FBI director actually called government gangsters. Many people in America have been looking for this to happen for a long time. We've seen it on other levels in other conservative states when there have been people who've been charged with heinous crimes like, murdering of children. So I think this is going to be truly an example for the next decade on how we handle criminals in this country, especially when you have a situation where someone, an American icon, was brutally executed in front of thousands of people.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Toria Brooke, the Republican commentator on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and of course that news this evening that Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin, will face the death penalty in Utah. I want to bring this conversation out to my panel here. Krista, I'll start with you because reading some of those transcripts, it really is quite shocking. This young man, very obviously in his early 20s, and so I believe that Tyler Robinson is around 23 years old. And this feeling that Charlie Kirk was this very hateful figure that he clearly, he talks here about allegedly picking up the gun, wishing he'd gone back to get it, saying he think he could get away with it. He goes on to talk about his dad and how his dad was a die-hard Migrant Republican.
And his worries about sort of leaving the rifle behind because it was allegedly his grandfather's rifle and that was and he couldn't take it with him and he wanted to go back and get it. It's really detailed. It's quite... I think we've got a real issue and again, this goes back to where we started about words and about we seem to have taught young people by trying to shield them from any opinions that they don't like, but also a rhetoric from people who are probably well-intentioned but massively misguided, where words equate to violence. And if you hear something from someone that is alleged to be transphobic, that it is violent, you are unsafe. How many times do we hear about people feeling unsafe as a result of words? Words don't make you unsafe. And so I think that's why there is a tendency for, I think, some younger people to therefore think it's appropriate to respond with violence when it comes to words that they've heard. And that's why we've got to try and cool it all down, but also stop equating opinions that you don't like, fairly held opinions you don't like. I'm not talking about sort of hyperbole, but fairly reasonably held opinions that you might not like to them being violent or unsafe.
Yeah, and such as traditional Christian values that obviously Charlie Kirk held very dear. That's what that was about. He based a lot of his philosophy on his Christian beliefs. They weren't outlandish in that respect.
They would have been mainstream somewhat 25 years ago. They'd be probably quite commonly held beliefs.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I totally agree with what Christo was saying. I think we've invented a crime in hate speech that has become incredibly unhelpful, incredibly divisive.
Yes. Matthew, what do you make of this?
Well, it's sad. The whole situation's sad. There are better ways of doing things. I think I won't make myself popular. I think Charlie Kirk was a very effective propagandist. He would, in many cases, ensure that the sort of lesbian with blue hair would walk to the front and give out some ridiculous opinion. He could ridicule her and he would plaster it on the internet and was very good at doing so. I didn't like him. I would listen to his podcast. I think you've got to try and understand the other side to try and defeat the ideas of it. Violence doesn't have a part to play, and ultimately this lad will no doubt face the death penalty, and that's he's made his choice. But I feel sorry for the people his family and those that know him, the things that he's allegedly done, I think, you know, nobody's laughing with him on this Discord chat. They're in shock and can't understand why he's done it. And I suppose the rest of that will come out during the court case. But yeah, it's awful. The whole situation.
It certainly is. I mean, look, I'm sure we'll be dissecting this for many more days to come. But in the meantime, coming up in just a moment.
I have to, and I'm not gonna. Well, we got to, otherwise we're dead. They're just gonna have to go back down the same way they come. Come on, just one clear shot, that's all I want. Come on. We got to. Nope. Get away from me. Why? I want to fight him.
The Lion of Hollywood, Robert Redford, is dead. Sadly, passed away at age 89 today. This is Patrick Christys tonight. Late edition, we'll be digging into that next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're wondering where you can go to avoid the UK's wind and rain, well, just about anywhere further south will do it, with a large area of high pressure bringing widespread dry and sunny weather, and in fact, very warm weather to the Canaries, into Spain as well as Portugal. Central Spain at the moment seeing temperatures up to 37, 38 Celsius, much higher than average for the time of year. Not quite as hot across Central Europe, but mostly dry with plenty of sunshine. And that theme continues through the rest of the week and into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, the Daily Star have led with a beautiful tribute of the Lion of Hollywood, Robert Redford, who has passed away, sadly, today, aged 89, I believe. Lovely, lovely tribute there. Heartthrob Christos as well there. Christo, should I say Christos?
Well, Christos is on my passport, so I know you've been looking at that.
You leave it lying around?
I do leave it lying around. Do you know, I didn't realise that he directed, that's what he won his Oscar for, he directed a film called Ordinary People, which is a brilliant 1980 film with Donald Sutherland about the death of it's about a family and one of the children dies and then another one tries to commit suicide. It's not a comedy, and that's what he won his Oscar for, and it was absolutely brilliant. He was in The Way We Were as well. Do you know The Way We Were? Memories like the corners of my mind with Barbara Streisand. Thank you.
Not quite as good as Barbara Streisand, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'll take that. Which is again a beautiful movie. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
That's what he's probably most renowned for. Is that, am I right to say that, perhaps, Paul?
Yes, I think. The Sting? I believe so. The Sting as well is another film that he's incredibly famous for. I actually tried during the break to find some controversy associated to him, you know, because it's always good to find controversy. But I couldn't find any. And he politically was to the left. I don't know why I'm bringing that up. Yeah. Environmentalism was a big thing for him. But in a time when environmentalism was seen as good by everybody, it wasn't seen as a divisive issue. He was interested in LGBT rights, probably just LGB, to be honest, because T didn't really exist back then. But he was someone who seemed to stay away from controversy, started the Sundance Festival in Utah.
Do you know what he was? He was a proper movie star that you didn't know everything about. There was a bit of mystique about
Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? I think that's what we should... I think that's what it should be like today, but of course it's too late with social media. Even a text message get you sacked these days, apparently. Anyway, I want to move on because this story is absolutely bonkers, right? It's an inside story here. A Labour-led council will encourage residents to have coffin-free burials amid a shortage of cemetery space. This is Sheffield City Council was warned this month that its burial capacity will run out within 5 years if immediate action is not taken. Matthew, this is the sort of stuff that makes people go, what? What?
I mean, these are your friends. Come on, defend them.
Yeah, what do you make
I mean, this is the first I've heard of it anyway. I think someone told me years ago, back home in Stockport, that this was nearly happening up there. And, I mean, I've always said when I've gone, put me out with the bins, it'll save you, it'll be a lot cheaper.
Oh, you do it in Birmingham, you'll be out there for months, mate.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, quite. It's not great. I mean, what do you do, though? Like, people aren't going to stop dying, are they? They're like, what?
Well, when they say coffin-free, they don't literally mean get rid of the coffin and leave them somewhere. I assume they mean a crematorium.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you know the crematoriums are going out of business at the moment as well now because they're not environmentally friendly enough using the gas kilns.
Right.
So now they're saying also Ed Miliband wants them to sort of have a more environmentally friendly way.
We'll just throw them into those wind turbines.
Yeah.
Job done. I mean, job
Hope
done.
there's enough wind that day, otherwise they'll just bounce down and fall down.
Yeah.
I mean,
listen, I'm all for, you know, bringing down
cremation
emissions or whatever, but, like, that is insane.
It's absolutely...
Before you know it, they'll be telling you they need to harvest the energy from the crematorium to power the country. That's the problem, isn't it? That's how bonkers net zero
I'm
will
worried
get.
now whether they just go and chuck the body in the hole and just not have a coffin.
Yeah, well, I end up with mass burial.
No, they want you to have...
Mass burials.
Do you know, I went to James Whale's funeral, God rest his soul, last Monday, and he was that really in the paper? No. And he asked not to be in a proper coffin, and he was put in a wool coffin, and everyone in there was like, my God, how lovely, but it's so environmentally friendly. He'd hate it.
Yeah.
He would have hated it.
I hate it too. I'm not going to lie to you. I want mine to be really sensational, my funeral, with like a stone coffin that never ages. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Hopefully not going anywhere time soon. Let's go through your papers, shall we? The Metro. Don in, none out. That's the Metro. The Express, $4 million to pay tax on state pension in 2 years. The Guardian, Trump fans the flames of division, says Sadiq Khan. You just can't shut up. The Daily Mail, human rights fanatic PM sunk by human rights. The Eye, Starmer to press Trump on Israel as UN warns of Gaza genocide. The Mirror, the ego has landed. The Telegraph, migrant flights grounded by court. The Sun, Air farce 1. The Times, technology deal worth billions is boost for the UK. the Daily Star, the Lion of Hollywood, and that is your paper roundup. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. If you are going to bed, good night, and if you're waking up in the morning, good morning. I will see you again this time tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been, by and large, a fine day today. We've seen 1 or 2 heavy showers, but more wet and windy weather coming in tonight, making for a soggy start tomorrow. It should brighten up in a few places, but some areas staying damp, particularly in Wales, where we have a weather warning. And here's the reason why.